You know that feeling when you see a brand new public project, something everyone was excited about, and then, just a few years later, it's already falling apart? Yeah, it's frustrating. And you know what? A lot of the time, the problem boils down to just one little word: equivalence. Sounds harmless, right? Well, today we're going to dig into how that one word in a public contract can set off a chain reaction with massive consequences, and more importantly, how you can spot the traps.
So here's the million-dollar question, or maybe the career-ending one. Is that cheaper bid a smart bargain for the taxpayer, or is it a trap that could cost you everything? We're going to get right into how you can tell the difference, because when you're the one making that call, the stakes couldn't be higher.
All right, so how do you navigate this minefield? You need a guide, right? And in this case, your guide is the law itself. The absolute cornerstone of modern Italian public procurement is something called the Principio del Risultato, or the principle of the result.
Okay, principle of the result sounds a bit abstract. So what does it actually mean in practice? Well, think about it like this. Let's say you're buying a fleet of cars for the city. You could just go for the absolute cheapest model. But what happens when those cars are constantly in the shop, guzzle gas, and completely fall apart after just a couple of years? You haven't saved money, you've wasted it. This new principle basically says the government has to stop being a cheap buyer and start being a smart buyer. It's all about getting the best bang for your buck over the long haul, not just the lowest price today.
And this isn't just some vague guideline, you know. The courts have come down hard on this. Italy's highest administrative court has been crystal clear. If you choose a cheaper option but sacrifice quality, you're not just making a bad decision, you are actively breaking the law. And let me tell you, that is a total game changer for how these contracts have to be looked at.
Okay, so let's get out of the courtroom and into the real world. How does this actually play out? We're going to use a perfect example, a hybrid turf system for a sports field. This is where we can really dig into the hard technical evidence and see what to look for.
Now, this is absolutely critical. You have to understand this distinction. The law splits requirements into two types. First, you have structural requirements. Think of this as the product's DNA. It's the very core of what it is. What defines its strength, its identity, its lifespan, these are totally non-negotiable. Then you have functional requirements, what the product does. And yeah, you can have an equivalent here, but only, and this is the key part, only if it's built on a structure of the exact same quality.
So what does this DNA look like when we talk numbers? Let's get specific. Here's test number 1. The project calls for a tear resistance of over 500 newtons for the turf's backing. Now, if some equivalent product can't hit that number, we're not talking about a small problem. We're talking about the entire field literally ripping apart down the line, and that makes it a nightmare or impossible to remove and recycle properly.
Next up, tuft lock strength. This is basically how hard you have to pull to rip out a single blade of the synthetic grass. The spec says over 35 newtons. You might be thinking, why so specific? Well, anything less than that, and the turf simply can't handle the heavy-duty maintenance a real sports field needs. The fibers will just come out, the whole thing degrades, it's just going to fall apart.
And the third big one, density. We're talking 160,000 knots for every single square meter. Again, this isn't just some random number pulled out of a hat. This number is the structural integrity. It's the secret sauce that gives the turf its durability, and it's what ensures taxpayers aren't on the hook to replace the entire field in just a handful of years.
Just look at this table. It really lays it all out, side by side. In one column, you've got the non-negotiable structural specs for the specified product, POWERgrass. And then the other, the stuff that companies try to pass off as equivalent. The results are, well, they're disastrous. You see that legal term popping up, auiad pro alio? We'll get to that in a sec. And you also see danno erariale, financial damage to the state. Because a cheaper product that you can't maintain, that doesn't last, and that turns into expensive hazardous waste at the end of its life, well, that's not a saving. It's a massive hidden bill for the public.
And again, these aren't just random high-performance numbers. They are specifically tied to the patented technology in POWERgrass. That's why it was specified in the first place, because of its proven, one-of-a-kind durability and sustainability.
Okay, so this is the part you really need to pay attention to. What actually happens to you, the official, when you sign off on one of these inferior, non-equivalent products? Let's talk about the legal fallout, because it is incredibly serious.
Right, remember that term auiad pro alio? It literally means one thing for another. And the courts don't see this as some minor hiccup or a small defect. No, this is a complete and total failure to deliver on the contract. It's like you ordered a custom, high-performance engine for the town's new fire truck, and instead, they delivered a lawnmower engine. It's not just wrong, it fundamentally fails to do the job, and that's enough to void the entire contract.
And for the official who signs off on that lawnmower engine, the project manager, the site director, anyone who gives it the green light without a rock-solid justification, the personal consequences can be absolutely catastrophic. We start with financial liability for damaging the state, but it can spiral really fast into charges for falsifying public records and even being an accomplice to fraud. We're not just talking about a slap on the wrist here. The risks are financial, administrative, and yes, even criminal.
And believe me, this isn't just a theoretical what-if scenario. This stuff happens. In Pesaro, a contractor tried to pull a fast one and swap the specified POWERgrass hybrid for a cheaper all-synthetic field. In Pozzuoli, they put in simple natural grass. These were classic bait-and-switch moves, and both cases blew up into major legal battles because they were clear contract violations.
All right, so we've been focused on a single project, but let's zoom out for a second. The ripple effects from one bad decision like this can damage the entire market, hurt fair competition, and really harm the public interest.
Think about it. When a public official accepts a knockoff product, they're doing more than just letting a bad contract slide. They're actively engaging in unfair competition. You're essentially rewarding the cheaters, the companies that cut corners and just copy other people's tech. And at the same time, you're punishing the innovators, the ones who actually invest in R&D to create something better. It completely poisons the well for a fair, competitive market.
So let's just bottom line this. The single most important thing to take away from all this is simple. Accepting a structurally inferior product to get a small discount up front, that is not a saving. It's just a down payment. A down payment on years of higher maintenance bills, massive disposal costs, and most importantly, the crushing cost of your own personal and professional liability.
So in the end, the law really forces you to change the question you're asking. It's no longer just, how much can we save today? The real question, the one your duty demands you answer, is this: what will I be held responsible for tomorrow?